Police Review Board will now come to order. Can we get roll call, please?
Tom Costello, Ricardo Diaz, Scott Dossett,
Here.
Diane Gottheil, Megan McGinty,
Here.
Grace Mitchell,
Here.
and Ivy Williams.
Okay. It appears that we do have a quorum to move forward. Okay, there are a couple of changes in the agenda, and one of them would be in item 4 of a staff report. A police chief will address the board. And also down in, right under 7 in new business, there's a new business item that'll be included, which will be to talk about how to get items put onto the agenda for meetings to come up. So, could they be noted, please? Okay. Were there any minutes or anything from the previous meeting for approval? Do we have any minutes?
Yes, the minutes of April 22nd, 2015.
Did the board have time to review those minutes?
Yeah, they would. I have no changes.
Okay. Okay. They would be towards,
And we just got page 10. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not right. That's the agenda.
The minutes are not in your agenda. They were previously emailed to you by a separate email.
Where I read it.
We do have one hard copy that we're circulating. And if you'd like, we can run off some more copies.
okay, do you all need copies? You need, would you like a copy done?
No, I just reviewed it and I.
Okay, what about you, Megan?
May I have a copy? I read it in email, but just.
Okay. Okay, we do need one copy.
You're welcome to that.
Okay,
Oh,
okay. Have you had a chance to review the minutes? Or do you want a few more minutes to review the minutes?
to review this.
Okay,
I should be okay.
okay, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, the minutes were mailed, so that gives us an opportunity to look over the minutes, and if there are any changes or anything with them, then we can bring them in here to the meeting. So, that's our fault, okay. No changes, corrections?
Motion to approve?
Okay, there's a motion to approve in a second. Okay, moving right on. Okay, next we will have the staff report. Chief Conley, who we present.
Well, thank you. Megan, you're the only person that I don't know. My name is Pat Connolly. I'm the police chief here. I wanted to take just a minute. I don't want to steal too much of Rich's time this evening because Rich will actually discuss with you the taser displays and the process that we've gone through so far. But I did want to take just a minute to first and foremost say thank you so much. I know this is time consuming to come and review all the videos and to read all the police reports. And secondly, certainly, I want everybody to know that this is a new process, so we are certainly, the more we can work together to try to make this an easier process for both you, and any suggestions or recommendations, feel free to bounce them off of Rich or Alex, or call me, and I'll be happy to discuss it further. But overall, I think we're, in my opinion, really going in the right direction. The training went very well. As I said, Rich will give you kind of an overview on that. To be 100% transparent, as I expressed in the very beginning of this process, the one concern I had was with the limited number of tasers that would be available on the street. I just don't know whether or not there would be adequate coverage. And in case any of you have heard about a taser deployment in Urbana, the only one that actually took place was in May, where we had an individual who was suffering from consuming some hallucinogenic drugs and a number of other drugs, and he was harming himself. He was armed with a butcher knife and also a shard of glass. He was threatening imaginary people and police officers and himself. The officers responded. No officers in Urbana were on duty at the time, went with tasers So the sheriff's office came in and supported us after about an hour and a half of negotiations. And I know you're not going to review this because it's a sheriff's office deployment, but I wanted to share it with you in case you said, wait a minute, Rich just shared with us that there hasn't been any discharge, and I heard that there was. I just wanted to say that that was actually, they negotiated with this young man for about an hour and a half. He was on the rooftop of an apartment complex. Ultimately, they got him into a position where a county deputy was able to tase him, disarm him, and we got him to the hospital, and literally they saved his life. So that was the only event of an actual discharge during the time period. But I wanted to share with you that that did happen. But again, Rich will cover the stuff. I certainly wanted to come just to say thank you and to extend the invitation, Megan, especially to you because you're not familiar with the police department. You're welcome to come by. We can grab coffee. You can hop in a squad car. You can get a better understanding of how the police department works, and I can answer any questions that anybody has. All righty? Anything for me before I leave the chair, or Mike? Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks,
Chief
Alex.
Conley. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any public participation? Any comments or? Yes, come to. Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Durrell Cruz, and occasionally I have come to past CPRB meetings. And first of all, I just want to thank all of you for volunteering to serve in this capacity on behalf of the residents of Urbana. It's an extremely important commission. And a couple of comments I wanted to make is that I think we are finding that the role of the CPRB is gradually shifting from where it was several years ago, because about 5 years ago I came to ask if the CPRB might be willing to look at the racial disparities that were in traffic stops, and I was told that that was not possible because the CPRB only dealt with specific police complaints, and they refused to address that. And I think you're finding that the CPRB is becoming an important commission on behalf of the city council to begin looking at issues that weren't originally the focus of the CPRB. Namely, this evening you're going to be looking at taser issues, even though there are no complaints. I think you're aware that IDOT Traffic Stop Task Force is possibly recommending that the CPRB look and work with the police department in terms of gathering data and analyzing that data on an ongoing basis. And so several people have been kind of following the progression of the change of the role of the CPRB. And there is some concern, I think, that you need to be aware of, that the community views this as a very important commission, but it hopes that you can maintain an objectivity of representing the citizens' perspective and be advocates for those types of concerns that people in the community have. And in your process of working with the police department, which of course is absolutely necessary, that you don't find yourselves moving in a direction where you compromise your primary purpose and role, and that is being basically the body that will be transparent and objective and look on behalf of the citizens to ensure that the type of policing that goes on in our community represents the values both of the community and the police department. I also want to mention, because I brought this up probably every other year, maybe every year, and I keep hearing from Tom, oh yeah, we'll address that at a future meeting, and it never is addressed. Last Tuesday at the county board meeting, this particular body was basically was used as a reference on police complaints. Mr. Kimmy, who you might or might not be familiar with, is worked with the county board before on jail issues and justice issues, and he said that he went to the Urbana website and looked up this particular commission just to see how many complaints there might be. because you're aware that the county board just approved the establishment of a racial justice task force. And he was making the case that when you looked at this particular commission, in terms of the thousands of encounters that occurred, there were basically no complaints that were made. I think maybe a handful, a half a dozen or so, and none of them ever founded. And what I would like the commission to consider is that I know, because Todd Rent mentioned it in the past, that there are people who come with concerns that they would like to talk and have addressed, where they consider a situation or a problem that they've had with the police, but it's handled informally and it is never recorded. And Todd many times gathers information and has responded to the citizens' issues and addressed it satisfactorily. It's kind of an informal process. I believe Todd has even referred people to the chief or his representatives, and some of those have been addressed informally. And they are never recorded, never accounted. And I have simply asked, is there a way for the commission to have a way of collecting complaints that are resolved informally, as well as those that occur formally, which appear to be minimal, because it is not a fair representation just for somebody to look at a website and say, oh, there are no complaints or there are no concerns coming from the public. There are, okay? And there are concerns that do not become public. And you'll see that in the IDOT traffic stop task force, because they talked about that 2 nights ago, that there are many of those also. So I guess I would like and would hope at some point that maybe the commission would, or the board would look at possibly collecting data on informal and formal that come to Mr. Bautista or to the police department that can be resolved satisfactorily, which I think is a preferable way, but I think there should be a record of those. And I would encourage you to stand steadfast and tall and be representatives of the residents as your role expands and you work with the police department on tasers and traffic stop data, so that you can be viewed as an objective, independent body that will look at policing to help our community become the type of community we would like it to be in terms of our police-community relations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. I think a couple of the things that you had mentioned, I think that this board will indeed look at those things, whether they're informal or formal, because that data is really important. It gives a better picture of what actually is going on. You know, although we were commissioned to do a specific task and looking at complaints, some of the areas that have been mentioned have been areas where complaints do come from. And I think that as a board, I think that this is one of the things that we can look at. One of the things that I think with this board is looking at individual complaints coming to individual board members. I think if there are complaints, whether they're informal or formal, they need to be presented. And if, thanks to Todd for willing to talk to those community people that wanted to talk to him, but indeed they should be recorded, so that we also could have an account of those interactions, as well as the other task force or the other committees or whomever is working with it. So I appreciate your comments. I think this board is all in agreement that we are not trying to be separate, and we're certainly not a board that wants to be seen as a rubber stamp board or a board that just goes along with the protocol. I think everybody on this board takes what they do seriously. We do want to work with the community as well as the police, so the relationships between those bodies can be good. This is what we want for Urbana. So I appreciate that, and I think this is something that we will address and take up in our meetings to work with those other groups. Thank you again. Okay, any old business before we move into the new business piece? Any old business? Any other public comments? Questions? Concerns? Board? No comments? Okay, we'll move on. In new business, we've got a couple things that we need to do. The biggest one is the CPRB review of the recent taser utilization. And you are?
Sorry, I'm not used to having to press the button. My name is Richard Searles. I'm a lieutenant with the Urbana Police Department.
Okay, the presentation will be presented by Lieutenant Sturls.
Yes, ma'am.
Lieutenant Sturls. Okay. I think everybody should have in front of them a packet, and in that packet you should have several documents which will help us along the way to Lieutenant Sturls' presentation. Okay, the first thing on the agenda for this new item is that, as you'll see in your packet, you have the spread sheets that are actually listing the 6 cases for TASER review by this board, okay? And it should have an idea of the things that are going to be taken care of and the process that's going to be used to look at those items, okay? Okay, you may begin.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, for those of you that I have not met, my name is Richard Searles. I'm a lieutenant with the Urbana Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division. We just recently had a switch in roles, so I did come from patrol. I've been reassigned to investigations. So that's a quick once-over on myself. Before we get into the TASER stuff, the chief wanted me to remind you that we've conducted the initial training for officers that was completed in March of this year. The TASERs were deployed to the street on March the 10th. We've trained one additional instructor just so I had a backup in case I got ran over by a bus or something. And then we've also had some continuing education as the TASERs have been out on the street. Before I get into the specifics of each particular TASER utilization, I wanted to just review a couple quick bullet points with everybody so you have an understanding as to where I'm coming from before I present the information. What I'll be providing you is an overview of the incidents. Each of you have been provided with all the documentation and videos from each of those incidents. I do not have any firsthand knowledge of any of these incidents as I was not present at any of these. I'm here to help you with protocol questions or maybe technical questions about TASERs, and each of these incidents have been reviewed internally by the Urbana Police Department. Okay? So the first one, and I think we're going to have to sort of work our way through this process to figure out whether it's best if I give you my spiel and then play the video or vice versa. I think the first one, I'll just read you what I've got, and then we'll watch the video. On this particular one, there's a technical aspect that I need you to understand. And actually, if you look on the screen in front of you, it's the one that has the cursor on it. It says there's video 1 and video 2. The reason I bring that particular issue up is that video segmented, and it segments at 10 minutes, and the reason they do that is a technical. It has to do with storage and transfer of data. The videos do overlap, so there's nothing that's not captured. So the video is complete, and my recollection is it was about almost 11 minutes long. So I just wanted to bring that issue to you. If it looks like it stops and then starts with a new video, it does, but the videos do overlap, so there's no loss. All right, so let me give you the specifics of this particular incident. This occurred on April the 21st in Northwest Urbana at approximately 12:23 a.m. Urbana police officers responded to a call of a suicidal subject in Northwest Urbana. Urbana officers learned that a 22-year-old male had armed himself with a knife and was threatening suicide to his ex-girlfriend. The male was located inside a bedroom of an apartment with the door closed. The reporting person told officers that she did not know what he was doing inside of the closed bedroom. The reporting person also indicated that the suicidal male was, quote, ready to die. Officers made contact with the suicidal male through a closed door. A TASER-equipped officer was on scene. Officers began the process of talking with the suicidal male. The male initially told officers that if they opened the door, he would charge the officers with a knife. Officers obtained a ballistic shield. They also called for an ambulance to stage nearby. During the conversation with the male, officers ultimately were able to get the door open to see inside of the bedroom. This was only able to be performed through negotiation and discussion with the distraught male. Officers were able to see that the male was indeed armed with a knife. The male was holding the knife to his own throat. The male indicated that he was either going to kill himself or force officers to shoot him. The male also asked one officer to give him the officer's gun so he could shoot himself. Officers continued to talk and try to calm the male. While this was occurring, the taser officer had readied his taser. And that's what you'll see is there's a lot of video of the wall, okay? The video from the taser captured both audio and video recordings from this event as they transpired. The video is mostly of the wall outside the bedroom. The suicidal male had seen the laser from the taser under the door during the initial contact. The taser officer, in an effort to calm the male, pointed the taser at the wall so that the lasers could not easily be seen by the male. The audio is difficult to hear, especially what the male says as he was speaking to the officer from deep inside another room. Ultimately, officers were able to convince the male that they would help him. The male eventually dropped the knife. Officers entered the bedroom, secured both the suicidal male and the knife. The male was transported to a local healthcare facility where he was left in the custody of healthcare professionals after completing a petition for involuntary committal. From the beginning of the contact to the end when the male and the knife were secured was more than 10 minutes.
Okay, can I stop you 1 minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please forgive me, board. It was one thing that I really needed to do before we actually got to your presentation. So if it's okay if I take a few minutes to go over those comments that I should have presented sooner. And that was actually the standards of review for this meeting, and they were, the standards of review will guide the proceedings for the benefit of the board and the public. And that is with A, the Urbana City Code, Section 19-43 is entitled Limitations of the Civilian Police Review Board's Review of Taser Display, that you'll be provides that the board shall review the police department's taser display in the manner provided with the code and shall have the authority to make recommendations concerning amendments to police department policy and practices concerning taser display. The board has no authority under this Division 4 to review the conduct of individual police officers or any individual taser display or recommend any disciplinary action regarding an individual police officer. A non-union member of the police department command staff shall be appointed by the chief of police to participate as the advisor of the board to the board during all reviews of incident reports and related materials concerning the taser displays. The aforesaid commander staff individual must not have had any direct involvement in any of the taser incidents that are under review by the board. The board shall have no authority to compel the appearance of any police officer at any meeting of the board which is convened to review taser displays. If there's any additional time is needed to review the reports that are included in the packets that you got, you have time to review them before you continue on with your presentation. And I'm sorry I forgot that piece. So if you've had time to review those reports in there and those incidents, I know those were sent out to you early, so I hope everybody had time to look over them. Okay. Okay. It's now you. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I appreciate you putting that information out. So if you're ready, Mr. Liggett has the video queued up, and we can play that for you now if you'd like. Would you like me to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, what can I help you with tonight? Is there anything I can do? Why do you feel that way? We're worried about you. We want to help you. Are you still hurting yourself? Keep talking to me, bud. Okay. Are you hurting yourself, though? Because I don't want you to hurt yourself, okay? Why do you feel that way? I don't want you to die. I don't think you want to die either. There's a lot to live for. What's that? We don't want you to do anything to yourself. We can help you. I want to help you. Will you let us help you? Is it just what's going on between you and your girlfriend that's got you upset, or are there other things? Well, what else is going on with you? Are you sure you don't want to talk about it? Sometimes it helps just to... It might. There's things that we can do to help you if you're having a hard time, and we want to help you. There's a lot of resources that we have. There's people that we can connect you with. There's a lot we can do to help you, bud. Have you? Have you ever talked to anybody about what you're going through? Have you talked to anybody at Community Elements or anything like that? Have you talked to anybody there? It sounds like maybe you have, and you just feel like you haven't gotten the help that you need. Is that true? Okay, if we come in, are you going to put the knife down for us? Well, we can get you to people that can help you with whatever you're going through, whatever the hard time is. Have you cut yourself at all? Did you cut yourself already? Okay, don't do that, okay? Okay. What was that?
That's our flashlight because it's dark out here.
Okay, where are you standing at, bud? Can we come in and talk to you? Where are you standing at right now? Okay, we're going to open it. We just want to talk to you, okay? Okay, we're going to open the door, okay? Anthony, we're going to come in and talk to you, okay?
We're just opening the door real slow, okay? Can you hear me? Okay. We just want to be safe, and we want you to be safe, okay? That's what we're trying to do. I'm explaining to you everything that we're doing, okay? Alright, we're going to open the door really slowly, but we just want to do it carefully for you, okay? Alright. Is the door locked? Okay. We're going to open it really slowly, okay?
With the Urbana Police Department, I'm a crisis intervention trained officer, okay? I want to let you know that the reason we're here is not to hurt you, and it's not to do anything that's going to put you in danger, okay? We're here to help you. I have no reason to take you to jail right now. I promise you I don't. Well, I don't want that to happen. Can you explain to me what got you so upset? Okay. Well, do you want to talk to me about it? Would you like to talk to a doctor about it? Well, I understand you talked to a doctor today, right? Did you get some medication prescribed you today? When was it? You took half the medication? Okay. You were trying to kill yourself? Would you want to talk about what's got you upset? Okay. Why isn't it going to change?
Not going to change nothing at all. I'm tired of going through this shit every day. The same shit. Y'all talking about help. Who the fuck gonna help me? Ain't nobody helping me. I go through the same shit every fucking day. I went through all this help and shit, and I'm still going through the same shit. Y'all talking about help. Ain't nobody helping me.
Okay. What doctor did you talk to?
Now I don't know, and I don't care. I really don't.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just going to open the door a little bit further, okay? We're not coming in. I'm just going to open a little bit further, okay? That way I don't have to hold it open the whole time. There you go. Say
You
that?
don't know what doctor you were talking to? That the doctor wasn't able to help you? Was it a psych doctor that you talked to?
That's why I need to know.
Okay.
If I'm not no more, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm telling you right now.
Well, I can help you. We can talk to a psych doctor right now if you want. I can take you to the hospital, not to jail.
We don't want to take you to jail, man.
You haven't done anything that's any reason to take you to jail. The first thing I told you as soon as I opened that door, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to get you in trouble. I want to see you get better, okay? And I know right now it might feel like the weight of the world's on you and nothing's changing, nothing's getting better. But we can work on that, okay? You said you haven't talked to a psych doctor yet. There are doctors that are trained to work through these issues that you're having, okay? Can you take the knife down from your throat? What are you thinking right now? What's going on? Where are you from? Are you from here in Urbana? You go. Or you go back?
We're here because we care, man. We don't want anything to happen to you. Hey, if we didn't care, we would leave. We don't want you to suffer. We don't want you to be hurt. We want you to be safe. And we might not have the exact answer, and we can't pretend to understand all of your problems, but I can tell you this, we're going to try. No one's here to take you to jail. No one's here to get you in trouble. And whatever you're going through, man, I don't want to minimize it. You must feel like you don't have the answers. And that's okay. It's okay to not have the answers. But we want to try to help. We can't promise that we can fix things, but we can promise that we can try. Life's tough. Life throws you curveballs. Life can shit on you. And it's hard. Your girlfriend called because she's worried about you. And then we get here. Well, that's the reason that she said that she called us. That's because she was worried. And now we're here and we're worried too. And it's tough because you feel like there's nothing that can help and you can't think of anything that's going to solve your problems for you. It's hard. No doubt about it, it's hard. But there's a lot of reasons to not hurt yourself. There's a lot of reasons to not kill yourself. And the biggest one is you don't get a second chance if you do that. How old are you, man? You got a lot of life in front of you, a lot of good things to look forward to. And it might not feel like it right now, but there's a lot of things to look forward to. Things can get better. It can only go up from here then, right? And that's up to you. You have the option. Appreciate you doing it. I'm turning this off, okay?
That's the end of the two videos I read to you. If nobody has any questions about that, I'll move on to the second one.
Any questions from the board? Okay.
All right. The second incident in question occurred on May the 29th, 2015 at approximately 7:40 p.m. Urbana police officers were sent to a report of an unknown problem at a public building in central Urbana. Officers arrived and located the reporting person. The reporting person indicated that he had located a bag containing multiple firearms outside of a building that was having a party. After the bag had been located, two people came to the reporting person and wanted to claim the bag containing the purported firearms. The reporting person pointed out the people that had tried to claim the bag to officers. Officers made contact with both people and were questioned about the situation. It had been determined that the purported firearms were actually BB guns with the orange safety tips removed. As there was a party at this location, there were a substantial number of people present when officers arrived and stopped. One officer estimated between 30 and 40 people present. During the course of the investigation, it was determined that both subjects would be arrested. Further information of that arrest will not be disclosed as it is protected by the Juvenile Court Act. During the course of the detention and ultimately the arrest, one subject became very hostile and demanded officers, quote, release his brother. Another officer also said that another subject said officers would have to arrest him also. The one aggressive onlooker demanding the release was approximately 6'3" tall and 200 pounds. He attempted to bait officers into a physical confrontation literally by asking officers to hit him. The other subject was literally being held back by other subjects. This onlooker repeatedly pushed past his friends and wrestled to get free of their grasp to get at the officers. A taser-equipped officer removed his taser, deactivated the safety. This displayed the laser on the taser. The officer repeatedly ordered the two males away from the officers. Once the crowd and the two aggressive males had backed away from officers, the taser was placed back in the officer's holster. Video and audio from the taser were recorded. As the officer did not point the taser directly at any one individual, the vast majority of the view was of the sidewalk and the feet of the people in front of the officer. Mr. Liggett, if you'll play the second video.
Don't walk up on me, sir. Don't walk up on me. You're acting aggressive. You need to walk away. You need to walk away, sir.
If there's no questions about the second one, I'll move on to the third.
So we're not going to see any squad cameras? I mean, that's okay. I guess I just would make a note. I'm reviewing these as they come through when I can. And there's a lot of other good information available with video from cars that were parked on Broadway, I guess. So
It would have been on Water Street.
okay.
Yes, multiple squad car videos were provided to Mr. Bautista. I can't speak to the squad car video, but yes, they were provided to the board.
And those are available in the office if anyone would like to review them. I don't think do we have them here today, Mr. Liggett? I watched the squad car video. What the squad car videos show is the number. There was a lot of individuals present and some different scenes from that. Some of you have already seen that. I know that Scott has. And what we can do for the next, you can review those again if you'd like in the office. And then one of the things that we're going to do moving forward is we're going to try to create a secure website where board members can view them from their home. At this point, it was very difficult for all of you to come. You have to come individually or in pairs of twos. This one gives us a sample of what occurred. But again, we can review it again if you'd like, the squad car videos.
How many board members have not seen them? Okay. Yes. Okay, would you like to see them? Would you like to review them?
You know what, if you'd like, what we can do is move on to the third video, because I anticipated that perhaps we could watch them in sets of threes.
Okay.
And so while Lieutenant Searles is briefing you on the third and showing you that taser, I will go locate those videos and bring them
Okay.
down.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
I promise I'll talk slowly.
Okay. Okay.
The third incident in question occurred on June the 10th, 2015 at approximately 4:51 a.m. Officers were dispatched to a report of a burglary in progress in southeast Urbana. The reporting person told 911 operators that a male was attempting to enter her residence. The reporting person indicated that the male had attempted to enter the residence using both the front entry and rear sliding glass door. The male was described as having no shirt, sweatpants, and shoes. At one point, the reporting person attempted to communicate with the male, but he was unresponsive to her. The reporting person indicated that the male was moving, quote, recklessly, and seemed sweaty. 2 officers arrived at the residence approximately 2 minutes later. One of those officers was equipped with a taser. One officer went to the front of the residence, and the taser-equipped officer went to the rear of the residence. The officer that went to the rear of the residence located the male leaning on the sliding glass door. The officer described the male as having his hands on the door above his head and his face pressed against the glass. The male was wearing jeans that were, the male was wearing jeans that were unbuttoned, no shoes, no shirt, and sweating profusely. The male was swaying back and forth, which the officer noted as being odd. Based on the information provided to the officer from the reporting person via 911, the officer immediately thought that this might have been an excited delirium situation. The officer noted multiple characteristics of excited delirium: partially clothed, fixated on glass, sweating profusely, and acting erratically. The officer determined that the best course of action, especially since he was alone with the male in the backyard, was to point his taser at the subject and provide calming verbal commands at a safe distance. Shortly after, other officers joined the taser officer in the backyard. The subject was held at taser point while the officers secured the male. Ultimately, it was determined that the male was profoundly intoxicated. The male had no explanation as to why he was at this location. Officers had to reorient the male to even what part of town he was currently in. The subject was ultimately transported to a local healthcare facility and left in the custody of the healthcare professionals. Video and audio from the taser were recorded. As the officer did point the taser directly at the individual, the vast majority of the view is of the subject. Mr. Liggett, if you'll play video number 3.
Okay? Listen, I need you to calm down. Just relax. Are you okay? Okay. Do you have any weapons on you, sir? Okay. Okay, we're going to hang out here. Keep your hands up, okay? Get that down. That down. Sure, I'll do me a favor. Turn around, man. You okay, Tom? You all right, man? Sure, you all right, man? What happened?
Mr. Bautista, did you want to?
Yes, we have the squad car videos, and Mr. Liggett is going to go ahead and play those for us. And this is, again, going back to case number 2.
While he's loading the videos for number 2, did anybody have any questions about number 3? I tried to stall for you, Jason.
Yep. Gotcha. Yeah. You got it?
Check out like this. I'm not leaving my brother. Alright, we ain't even on that though. Alright. I'm not leaving my brothers. I'm just.
Alright, well, they're being detained right now. I don't know what happened. We just got here.
Don't even put that up. Don't even that out. What you mean? Y'all gonna have cover me. Yeah, y'all gonna have to take me through there and shit.
Yeah.
Just shut up, bro.
What's your name, man?
My name.
Spell your last name?
Just so everybody knows, the reason the audio cut out is personal information. was
He did
being
not like when I
redacted.
pulled my mace, though. He backed up for that.
Out, nigga. Out.
Your date of birth? Where you stay at?
Well, I just moved, so I swear to God I don't know my address.
You don't know your address?
I swear. I know the directions and everything. I just do not know.
Champaign or Urbana?
It's Champaign.
Champaign. Where'd you move from?
I moved from...
And what was your old address?
That party. What time is it supposed to start? What time is the party supposed to start, Sergeant?
That's all I got.
Well, I don't really know. I haven't been back in a while. I don't really know I know my weight. I think it's like 103.
What color hair you get?
I mean, I dyed it brown, but it's black around.
You go to school? Where you go to school?
I just graduated today from Jefferson Middle School.
Okay. So which high school are you going to?
I'm going to Centennial.
Centennial? What's your mom's name? Or who you stay with?
I stay with my dad.
Your dad? What's your dad's name?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that that's really all of the video that, again, you can
What's
see
his phone number?
with
What's that
Alex
is?
that we really
No,
need to
his
see
phone number
for the
is-
taser review context. So, I mean, I guess you'll have to trust me on that, but the reason that I thought it was important to see is literally that shot that showed the people massing, approaching the police and backing off. I couldn't really identify which officer actually had the taser, but I think it may have been one with his left hand kind of extended but drooped down, and that helped me get a perspective for how the whole incident kind of proceeded and what caused them to take the taser out and deactivate the safety. The rest of this video has a lot of to and fro with people in the back seat kind of being interviewed and stuff like that, and I don't really think is germane to what we need to do now. So, thank you for bringing that down, Alex.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the first set of three? These were the ones we were going to review the last time that we were going to meet, but we were unable to meet. And then we have three new ones that we can review today.
I have a question about the first one, which I should have asked. What were we looking at?
It took me a minute to figure out as well. The reason that you see kind of a giant red blob is the laser is actually reflecting off of the wall. So what you're watching is the wall.
Okay.
Can I ask a kind of a newbie question? I've read a lot of the materials, and Alex and I have spoken about the activation of the taser. At what point, considering there was a door between them, why did they decide to activate the taser prior to entering the room? That's the only thing I'm confused about.
Per the Urbana Police Department policy, whenever a taser is removed from the holster, the safety comes off. And when the safety comes off, the lasers come on and the camera comes on. So one of the reasons that they did it was to capture the events with a recording. The other reason they did it was so that it was ready in case he, sprang through the door with a knife trying to attack the officers, or if he started cutting himself. Or there's a number of reasons. They were simply getting their tools ready. That's why they had lethal cover with a firearm, and why they had a ballistic shield, and why they had a taser. They were equipping themselves with multiple force options. You're welcome.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
All right. Moving on to number 4. On July the 6th at approximately 11:38 a.m., officers were dispatched to a public road in north central Urbana. The officers are sent to this location for a report of a male walking in traffic. Multiple callers had notified 911 that the male intentionally appeared to be trying to be hit by passing vehicles. UPD officers arrived approximately 1 minute later. Officers found a male randomly pacing in the roadway. The public road where this was occurring is amongst one of the highest traveled roads in the city of Urbana. Amongst the officers that arrived at the scene was a taser-equipped officer. The officer attempted to make contact with the male, and he immediately started to yell and scream. The first words spoken by the male were, quote, "Get me an ambulance," end quote. The male immediately started to walk away from officers. One officer noted that the subject was sweating and rapidly pacing back and forth. The officers then informed METCAD that this was possibly an excited delirium situation. That triggered the response of additional police and EMS resources to the scene. Officers also ordered other responding officers to block the road out of fear that the subject would be struck by a passing vehicle. The taser officer removed his taser and kept it near the center of his chest. This is done for both retention and, in this case, a less threatening posture. The male cycled repeatedly from manic to semi-normal behavior. The durations of the cycles were very short, and his outbursts into manic stage were belligerent and contentious. The subject repeatedly made odd, high-pitched, almost screaming sounds. Officers on scene had to attempt to manage the male's apparent hostility and movement throughout the street while deflecting traffic around them. Additional police officers arrived to assist with both managing the male's movement and traffic. Several officers on the scene attempted to speak with the male and calm him. This included an officer that had previously dealt with the subject after he had jumped out of an ambulance after being transported to a local healthcare facility on a petition for involuntary committal. After a period of mostly fruitless negotiations, an opportunity was seized and multiple officers took the suspect into custody without a fight. The taser officer reholstered his taser to assist taking the subject into custody. The subject resisted officers mildly by pulling away and leaning forward. The subject was ultimately transported to a local healthcare facility via ambulance, and a petition for involuntary committal was completed. Video and audio from the taser were recorded. As the officer did not point the taser directly at the individual for the majority of the incident, most of the view was of the roadway, feet, and legs of people in front of the officer. Mr. Liggett, if you'll play video number 4.
Keep going. Come here. Just talk to us. Come talk to us. Okay?
Talk to me. Let's go over here, okay?
Yes.
Can you get
Come here. Come here.
Yeah.
Let's get our truck so we can talk to you, all right?
Tell us what's going on. Where are they at?
They're on the way.
Well, I'm going to walk to them.
Come here. Hold on. Hold on.
I'm protesting. We're not against the law of protest.
No.
And
But we can't be in the street.
This is public protest.
Right. We need the northbound and southbound traffic stop.
Yes!
Come here.
Stop the
Come here.
street!
Come here. Come talk to us, okay?
Stop the street! I don't know! Trying to make me miserable!
What's your name?
I don't know! Figure it out! Stop this figure.
Huh?
I just think it ran over.
No. There's no one stopped. Everyone stopped.
Where's more officers?
Huh?
Where's more officers?
Why? Why you don't want to talk to us?
Cause get North State out here on top.
Huh?
Get North State out here on top. Illinois State Police and on top. Illinois State Police. That's all I'm talk to.
And then you'll talk to us?
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Okay. Okay. We got people coming to help you, okay?
You guys are blocking off every fucking.
Can we go on the sidewalk? Hold on, hold on. Can we go on the sidewalk?
No!
Why can't we get out the sidewalk? Why
No,
can't we get out the street? Okay. Just come talk to us.
No!
Come talk to us. Can I at least know your name?
No!
I can't know your name?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Come here.
I need help.
Okay, we're trying to give you that help.
I'm not going by ambulance.
Okay.
Hey, buddy, you remember me?
Okay.
Carl, do you remember that? You remember me? Help, but I don't want to go to Carl. I don't
50.
want to go through.
Three.
I don't want to go through real.
Watch him. Just stop him. Come here.
I'll call you one!
What's his, he won't tell us.
Yes, say police out here. I'll talk.
We got people coming to help you.
Come here. Hey, do you
Oh, no,
remember
just
me
stop.
talking to you the other day? No. When you were in the
Okay.
ambulance, do you remember you jumped out the ambulance? Do you remember that? That was me. I need a police report for that. I know. Remember you were threatening the ER? Do you remember that?
Hold on, hold on. We got an ambulance coming, okay? Oh, stop it, stop it. Okay, can we walk to the house?
No, we're not
Then talk to
walking
me.
anywhere but back and forth.
Okay, stop so we can talk and get you your help.
Hey, let's talk to you, buddy. All right? Hey, let's talk to you. Hey, what's going on with you? Get all these fucking people out of here!
We're trying to.
Get all these people out of here! Hey, what's going on with you? I want to be up! I want to be... Listen! That's us! Someone help me out! All right? So we know what's going on with you, bud. Hey. God, the fucking ambulance right now! Hey.
Okay?
Hey, I'm Nathan.
Look, can you talk to us so we can give you the help that you need?
If you don't know what's going on with you, get people into everything! I'm protesting until I get
What are you protesting about?
Stop.
Okay. Maybe I can talk to you and get you whoever you need to talk to. What are you protesting about?
I don't know. Get some of some Carriers out here. Carriers? No. Illinois State Police. Get a cop out here.
Sir, drive. Sir, drive.
want to talk to State. Where's the State Police? Because. Everything! Okay, why do you want to talk to state police? Because I'm trying to talk to state. Well, I'm going to state police for you. Want to talk to someone out of Pontoto. Get someone out of Pontoto, please. Okay. What can they do for you? They can give me that police report.
What if I can help you get the police report?
That's why I'm protesting.
Okay.
I'm not even suicidal or nothing. I just want the police report.
Look, if you give me all your information, I can help you get that. We can help you get that. We can get you the police report. That's easy. That's
They said
easy.
they're not going to release him without a subpoena.
Release what? We can get you the police report number. Hold on. Stop him. Stop him.
I want to talk to state police.
Okay. If you want to talk to him, how can you talk to him? You're upset. If you calm down, we can get him on the phone and we can talk to him.
How many cops do you need? Well, where do you want me to protest?
On the sidewalk.
On the sidewalk?
Yes.
How am I going to get hit? This whole road is shut down. Get a state cop out here and I'll talk. You're getting someone from the state? Will you do us a favor since we did that? Just sit on the sidewalk for us? Why? The road's already blocked off. Well, I know, but we need to open it up. It's a major road. I don't care. I want to talk to a state cop.
Okay.
I understand it. We're doing some things to try to help you out. Now we just want you to do some things to help us out, okay? Will you do that for me? Why are there people that walk the road? I thought this was supposed to be closed. Give me a state cop out here and I'll talk. They're on their way. Tell them to come light the fire and talk. How many cops do you need?
We're going to take the fun away from this.
What? Can I go on the street? Okay, can I still walk? Because that's the token skill.
Are there any questions about that? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 5. On September 10th, 2015, at approximately 3:16 p.m., officers were dispatched to report of a domestic dispute in southeast Urbana. Metcalf informed officers that a male had a knife and had threatened his girlfriend. Metcalf went on to say that prior to 911 being called, the domestic had been physical. Metcalf also reported that there was an infant inside the house and the female thought the male might harm the infant still inside the apartment. The male was also supposedly intoxicated. Officers arrived and met with the female victim. She reported that the male had swung a knife at her 3 times. She went on to say that the male had put a knife to the throat of her daughter. The male was upset with the female because she was going to move out and end the relationship. Officers entered the apartment, called out to the male who was in another room. An officer displayed his taser and ordered the male to come out from his location and toward the officer. The male complied and he was taken into custody. The male was arrested for aggravated assault, domestic battery, and endangering the life/health of a child. Mr. Liggett, if you'll play video number 5.
Hey, come out here and talk to me. What's going on? Officer from the Urbana Police Department. What's going on? Everything's okay? Oh, hey, put everything down and just step out here for me. Okay. It's coming out. All right, step out here. Where's the baby? Okay, come on, step on out. Okay. Oh, okay. Turn around that way, folks. All right.
Are there any questions about number 5? Seeing none, we'll move on to 6th and final. On September the 12th at approximately 3:38 a.m., Urbana police officers were dispatched to a report of a domestic dispute in southeast Urbana. MEC had reported that there was a male inside the apartment that was, quote, trying to hit everyone and going crazy, end quote. The first officer arrived and could hear yelling from where the officer was parked. As he approached the apartment, the yelling got louder. The yelling continued, and the officer heard a, quote, pounding noise coming from inside. Based on what the officer could hear from inside the apartment, he elected to check to see if the door was unlocked and attempted to intervene in the situation despite being alone at that moment. The officer entered the apartment and found 2 people were on the stairwell. He also observed one person essentially in front of the officer and next to the stairwell. This person, a male, was sweaty in gym shorts and socks only. The male continued to yell at people on the stairwell, and the officer... this is what happens when you don't proofread things. Sorry. The male continued to yell at the people on the stairwell despite the officer yelling at him. The male did not hear the officer, however. The male pounded on the side of the stairs, and the officer removed his taser and pointed it at the male. The officer continued to yell at the male to get his attention, and after several times, the male turned towards the officer. The officer then gave the male commands, which the male followed. About this point, another officer from another agency had also responded to the call to assist the first officer on scene. The male was secured in handcuffs. Further investigation of the incident revealed that the male came home around approximately 3:15 a.m. intoxicated. The male was upset that there was a visitor in the apartment earlier in the day. The male supposedly threw items around the apartment, quote, in a fit of rage, end quote. Another family member reported that the male had, quote, just freaked out, end quote. The male involved in this incident was arrested for disorderly conduct. Mr. Liggett, if you'll play the last and final video, video number 6.
Talk to me. Is that okay? Stay right there. My name is with the police department, okay? Now, what I need you to do is cooperate, and everything goes smooth, okay? You're obviously upset tonight. I get that. But I want to make sure that you're okay tonight, too, okay? So, having said that, what's your first name? Okay. I'm with the police department, okay? Like I said, we got called here because things are upset, okay? So what I need you to do, just right now, just walk towards me, okay? Step outside here. Just step outside. Just step outside real quick, bud. Just real quick. Let me get some shoes.
Are there any questions about that incident?
Lieutenant Rose, could you just turn on the lights for us?
I'd be happy to.
No questions on the last videos? Okay. Okay, at this point, what we will actually do, as long as there are no questions, what we'll do is just kind of get together and review these. Look at the information that's presented, and at conclusion of this, whether the board will have any recommendations as to any of the TASER policy changes. And there are two recommendations that we could actually offer. One would be no policy changes recommended, or policy changes recommended. So we'll take a few minutes to kind of review that. Yes, Diane?
I have a general question. Are officers sent to a scene called because they have a taser, or does it just happen that an officer was on duty who was taser equipped?
The answer generally is both occur. In these particular incidents, the first one was by happenstance, but if we did not have one, we would have asked for one. Sorry, I need to pull up my review here. The second one was by happenstance. The third one was by happenstance. The fourth one, we probably would have requested an officer with a taser, based on the circumstances that they were initially dispatched to. The fifth one was by happenstance. They might have requested one. It just sometimes it's not what the dispatcher says, it's how the dispatcher says it. You can tell when they believe something is really real. Does that make sense? So without having heard the radio traffic on this, they might have asked for a taser officer on number 5. And I'm sorry, on number 5, definitely. I was confusing number 5 and number 6. Number 5 was the one where the knife was being supposedly held to the throat of the infant. Yes, absolutely. We would have requested one on number 5. And on number 6, that was the one that was saying it just depended on how it was dispatched. They might have asked for one in that particular instance, but it was just by happenstance.
Might there be similar incidents where an officer with a taser wasn't available or
Oh, absolutely.
didn't get there in time?
Absolutely. There's been, and it's not specific just to the Urbana Police Department. There's officers from other agencies that ask for officers with tasers to come to their scene because of whatever the circumstances might be, and it's not specific to Urbana. It happens all over.
Are the types of incidents where a taser might be required or helpful or urgent made explicit in the training?
What's made explicit in the training is the circumstances under which Urbana police officers can use and display a taser. That's what's explicit.
How many tasers do we currently have in operation?
6.
Can I make an observation?
Yes, you can.
It was very enlightening. As you know, this is the first time we're convening to review tasers, and I believe, when is it that you introduced them into the force? Is it?
First day on the street was March the 10th of
March
this year.
10th. And we've had 6. An observation I made is that they weren't, I don't know what the technical term is, but they weren't energized. They were all displayed.
Yeah, we're using the phrase discharged.
Discharged.
Yeah, we try not to use the word deployed, but discharged. Just like you discharge a firearm, you discharge a taser.
And as I looked at the policy, you know, it appears that the officers have used them exactly for what they were authorized to be used. The first case we had, that suicide, it was riveting to watch. And the other thing I noticed in the policy is that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that an officer can only have a taser if they have been trained and they have received that mental health training, SITs or sites or
CIT. The requirements in order to carry a taser at the Urbana Police Department are that it's a voluntary program, and by voluntary that means you volunteer for the program, but you have to be tased. You have to experience the taser firsthand. That's number 1. And then number 2, you have to be what's referred to as a crisis intervention trained officer, which is 40 hours of mental health training. Those are the 2 baseline requirements in order to even be eligible to carry a taser.
How many officers have tased? How many officers actually have been trained to use the tasers?
I have trained 5 additional officers, so we have 6 total officers that have been trained to carry and use a taser. The entire police department has been given what's called a non-user level of training. So all officers at the Urbana Police Department have been given some level of training.
Okay.
The training I give to officers that carry the training is 12 hours long.
Okay. Any other questions from our presenter? Okay, then we come finally to deliberating on what we want to, is it for a recommendation, and this will be individually, a vote for recommendation to change the policy that is in practice at this time, or to keep the policy as it is. And we need a majority of board members to vote. Yes. You need to vote, you need to vote. Okay.
So I can move that we make no changes to the current policy based on what we've written.
Okay. Diane has actually made a motion, but we wanted to do a roll call vote on the changes. And I'm hearing one from Diane, is that we move to make no changes to the policy.
Just before we do that, we'll need a second. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second for the purposes of discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll start that. I had no idea that the system as it's been presented here tonight was going to be used for the proceedings. You know, the way the ordinance was amended had, you know, some reporting limitations and time frames and things like that. But I think to actually bring ourselves to a point of literally suggesting changes to policy that took 50 hours to edit and implement is a little beyond the pale for me, and so I don't agree with what we're doing right now. So, you know, I'm just out about that. I mean, I seconded the motion. I'm not going to vote in favor of changing policy because I think it's a knee-jerk reaction. But my point is that I think we as a board should have deliberated to what extent we were going to move in this direction in the context of the review itself. So this is the first time that we've really talked through this whole kind of systematic procedure of reviewing the TASER stuff, and I think we're putting way too much in one pot here. So I just caution everybody for a slowdown there. So that's my first comment.
Can I ask a question then, Scott? So you're raising a question about not the policy, but about how we're reviewing.
About our process right now. Right, yeah. I don't see any authorship and don't know where the CPRB review of TASER utilization order of proceedings came from. 2 pages here. It doesn't reference as being part of our ordinance. And so I'm concerned with its completeness. And I mean, I think we need to challenge ourselves to make sure that this is exactly how. I mean, I don't think we should delay the review of TASER incidents, but I think we need to be careful about what kind of rubric we say we're going to use as we go through this review.
So are you suggesting, Scott, that we continue to review and actually deal with the recommendations at another point or after another meeting or two?
No, I think we probably should go, unless there are strong feelings about implementation or officer action with these 6, you know, that we shouldn't force everybody to revisit these. But what I'm saying is that this order of proceedings document that you're using to kind of key our motion, I don't think anybody here ever agreed to, unless I missed a meeting where it was voted on. And it seems to me as if, you know, we need to take what we want in this review seriously. And, you know, I haven't had the time, we haven't had time as a body to talk and think about the order of proceedings. And it just seems to me a little bit, like, as I said before, beyond the pale that we would actually narrow ourselves down to trying to make a policy change, in Section 6 final deliberations of the board. I would hope that we'd take that step very carefully and only after independent review and thought about what the policy is currently and how we might want to change it. And I don't see these 6 incidences changing the way I feel about any of the policy, but I don't know how I would really get my act together during, one meeting after doing these 6 reviews, to think we could make a change to policy. So.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor.
And I seconded it.
Okay,
so.
and a second?
You don't want to amend the motion?
Right.
No, I don't. No, I don't want to do that because I don't think that we have a pattern that, to me, really merits that level. I'm just cautioning us all that, we have this 2-page rubric that I'm not sure we really understand the limitations or advantages of. And I know that we haven't talked about it in this forum. And I think before we do something that would result in something as extreme as suggesting a modification to policy, that we need to look at how we accumulate the information to derive that kind of a decision, and we haven't done that yet. Is that making sense is everybody understanding what I'm saying?
Yes, but it seems like you're making another motion in a way.
No, no, I'm just complaining about process.
One of the things that I would suggest, and it would be up to the board to think it would be okay, is that if indeed that we're looking at the policy as it is today, and if there might be other board members that don't feel that we really know enough or have had enough to actually engage in changing the policy, could we not come up with something that we continuously review what is going on as far as TASER utilization, and at some point get together again to talk about it and say, okay, to this point, this is what we see. We've had enough information about situations that have occurred in the usage of tasers. That's the only way that I know that if we don't feel comfortable enough with some of us don't feel comfortable enough with making, any changes. It can be a motion. It can be a motion in that you can vote to not take any action and keep things as they are now and to pick this up at another time, or it could be the motion to either change. So we would need the feel of the board on that. That's what I would suggest, is that we just look at it at another time and leave policy as is.
Yeah, I mean, in my mind, there are two policies here. We've got the way the CPRB operates, and we've got the way that the TASER implementation policy. Right. So it's unclear for me in Section 6 actually which one of those we're really talking about. I mean, implicit in what we've been doing is that it is, but I mean, I'd argue that these 2 pages here that are page 1 and 2, but it repeats the ones right before the summary of the 4/21/15 incident. We need to study and work on this part right here, which is our responsibility. And so, I mean, I seconded the motion that no policy changes are recommended because I don't think the rubric we've designed to result in changes is justified right now. So, I mean, I'm ready to vote yes on the motion I seconded.
Okay. Any other questions? And after that, then we can talk about where do we want to go after this? What are we going to do? Are we going to just let this drop, or are we at some point, which I think is important, that we review what is going on or what is happening with the usage of tasers? Okay, that was a recommendation. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Any other questions? Let's vote on that motion. Roll call.
Scott Dossett.
Yes.
Diane Gottheil.
Yes.
Megan McGinty.
Yes.
Grace Mitchell.
Yes.
Ivy Williams.
Yes.
Okay, we do have the majority. We have all voting in favor of leaving the policy as it stands today. Scott, Mr. Dawson, would you like to make a motion to some extent as to how we should approach this coming up in the future? Because this is something that we would hopefully like to review.
Yeah, well, I just think as the job of the board, anytime we call ourselves to order and go through the order of proceedings that you've helped us with tonight, Grace, thank you, that we should all know what that order of proceedings, what's in that document. And we haven't reviewed that document. So I will specifically request that the board review the review of treasurer utilization order of proceedings to make certain that the content that we really want is in there. And specifically, or well, at least part of my point is to make this very transparent to people who may be watching us out there, you know, in TV land, so that they understand. I mean, I may be way off base here, but I don't believe I've missed a meeting. Has anyone else reviewed and marked up this 2-page order of proceedings document? I mean, I think this is the first time it's been used. I think we should draft through and edit that.
Can I ask a question? So would we put this on an agenda and hold a special meeting maybe next month or the month afterwards? Or hold it over to the next meeting of the CPRB?
Which is when? It's gotten away from me.
I
When the
think
one
this
after?
is the last one for this year.
Well, can we, I'm sorry, can we, under your direction, just kind of, you know, review this and provide you with some feedback?
Well, I really like what you said, meaning that it would be a good idea, as far as I can see, that we convene and develop an order of proceeding. Or you could create a committee that could review it and develop something that captures how you wish to proceed. The current order of proceeding provides a format to go through and identify, do you wish to make a recommendation to the police chief to change the policy? It would be the police chief who would change the policy. You would be giving, according to the current ordinance and layout, and then the police chief would consider that. I believe that if the Civilian Police Review Board made a recommendation, it would go to the police chief and it would go to the mayor, and then they would have a discussion. I think it's in the packet what the actual process is, should the CPRB make a recommendation. Now, I don't logically, if you had seen anything in these videos that disturbed you, I don't know that you would make a recommendation today. You'd probably commission a study, would probably have lots of questions, we'd probably meet again, and then you'd discuss, and then you'd either refer to one of you to write it, or you'd ask me to reduce your thoughts and submit it to you for review, and then eventually would go to the police chief. So I don't know that you would, in one day, produce a recommendation for change without some kind of study.
I think one of
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does make sense. I think one of the things that really comes up is the fact that we as a committee, what I'm hearing is that familiarity with any type of documents, changes, it's that you need to see them firsthand before you actually see them and start working on them. We need to have some emphasis, what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it could be as simple, Grace, as having this as an old business item for the next scheduled meeting. And then if we could be prompted to read through this and make additions or subtractions, then we could just, you know, just flow it right into the next thing that we do.
Okay.
If I hear you correctly, what you're suggesting is if we did have a recommendation, it wouldn't mean it would be decided upon precisely what it was at this meeting, that we would need time just to share information,
Right.
our thoughts, and before we drew up a document.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, can the minutes reflect that we would like to look at as a board any information in reference to changes or even looking at policy change would be helpful to us if we could actually kind of get some layout of what we're looking at before we actually come into the meeting and start saying, let's either change or don't change.
And it's implicit or maybe explicit in 6.
It is.
2, 2.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
If a policy change is recommended.
right. Mm-hmm.
So it won't be, we won't say, this is what we recommend.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So let me just give some draft language so I make sure that, because we'll prepare the agenda for January in the next couple of weeks. Something to the effect of review and establish an order of proceeding for TASER reviews. Does that work? And then
And that works because it might take a few meetings to actually, look at the informations or review other videos or to get more data. So that works, and it gives us something to work up to, to say, oh, okay, we see some things that are happening or not happening. That would be helpful. So, yes.
Can I insert a word for TASER policy review?
Yes.
At the end there, not for
Mhm.
TASER review.
Yeah, 'cause it could
it would,
relate
well,
to
would it
anything.
be TASER utilization and policy review? Because we're reviewing the TASER utilizations and we're reviewing the policy in terms of whether we wish to make recommendations based on the review of the TASER
Right.
displays.
And it could be any other policies that, we might encounter to have to review and look at. So I would say TASER because this is the immediate policy that we're looking at, and any other policies that might come before this board to review and make any types of recommendations on.
Right.
So-
And this is our maiden voyage, this is the first time we're convening to review them. So if we had found anything that required a recommendation, we don't quite have the procedure for how we would go through defining that. So I think that's the heart of what you're referring to, right, Mr. Dossett? Yeah. So we'll see if we can iron out, should we have the need to do that, how would we actually
Right.
mechanically go about doing that?
Do we have several meetings with the police chief and look at some more videos or have concerns about videos that we've seen problems occurring? Okay, that's fine.
Are we still looking at the present one that we looked at?
have.
This is the one that we're gonna use as a initial or
Yes.
start of the
I
groundwork?
think so, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Any other questions or discussions? Motion was carried. Any other business?
Well, I had a couple of comments about what we did tonight, if
Okay.
I might. First of all, I want to
I'd like
thank,
to thank you for your presentation.
well, that's what I was
Well, I've
gonna
got
do.
questions too. So.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, and I also want to let members of the community know that although Detective Searles has kind of summarized these off of a one-page sheet, the members of the board get the opportunity to review sometimes multiple individual officer reports from these incidents. And so, and I know this is how these were appended, I'm just trying to be transparent here. And so we can literally see what the official, I'm assuming I'm risking my job when I make the report, the cop gets it right because he's going to be held responsible for that. So we have seen all pages of these for all of these instances. The only thing that we haven't seen, which actually during the appeals process I find educational to read, are the METCAT transcripts. And I'm not necessarily requesting those, I'm just throwing that out there. So I feel as if the packages that we've been provided, and some of these I've reviewed before this meeting, the video 2 and 3 times to try to tease out detail about, what the operational aspect of this is. I think that we're really being provided with a lot of good information about it. One of the things that I did notice, though, and I wanted to bring up, is that in one of the things, this was during a review today, I was able to see a badge number, and I thought, boy, I wish I could, it's in the packet that I got today from staff, and I thought that anything that identified the officer was also supposed to be redacted, and that was kind of an important thing.
It is. Let me talk about the sort of front end of this process so you're aware what happens. When a taser display or discharge occurs, I've asked for some notification from the officer. A phone call, a text, smoke signals, whatever. Let me know something happens. And then what I in turn do is I notify Mr. Bautista, we've had one, and I think more often than not I would give him a 1 or 2 sentence synopsis of what happened so he had some vague idea as to what was going on. And then what I do from there is I get the videos and I give them to Mr. Liggett for redaction. But in order for them to be redacted, I have to watch every second of every video, of every angle of the video. And the reason I bring that up is the squad cars, for example. There's a squad car video, but each squad car video has 2 cameras, so I have to watch it twice. So it can be a laborious process, to say the least. What I'm looking for are things that need to be redacted, like people's faces, personal identifying information, things like that. So once I'm done with the videos, I give them to Mr. Liggett, and I give him a list of, at this time, you see this person's face, and then he calls him Jim, and so on and so forth. And so sometimes my list is rather long. There were a couple times in there where I heard somebody's name mentioned. I went, I missed one. So yes, mistakes happen, and that problem starts with me. I'm one of the first people to go through this. There's some other eyes that look at these, but in the end of the day, it's my baby. I own the redaction. With respect to the police reports, all the police reports come in, and they go to people that typically do FOIA redactions, and they know the sorts of things they're looking for. And again, we're looking for personal identifying information. And you're absolutely correct. If you saw a badge number, you shouldn't have. I don't have a Sharpie with me, but if you like, I can go get one and scribble it out.
Well, actually, I'll correct myself. It was actually on 2 complaint forms.
Oh, okay.
Not the taser stuff, I don't think. I did those in one batch.
I got you.
So.
The process is not infallible. I am human. I will miss stuff. I'm trying to keep this as anonymous as possible for everybody involved, to include the officer and to include the people we deal with. Sometimes, and I tried to give you sort of a disposition so you understood where we landed with these things. Like, they were taken to the hospital on a petition for involuntary committal. That gives you kind of an ending to what happened. So that is the front end, and what happens is I deliver all this information to the chief's office in case the chief wants to review it. I make copies of videos if he needs copies, and thank God we have Jason Liggett, because if we didn't have him, we'd be up the creek. And then from the chief's office, it goes to Mr. Bautista's office, and then he distributes that information to y'all in a packet. So, yeah, we look at all of it, all the police reports. If you want transcripts from METCAD, I will do it. That is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Just
I'm not asking for that.
Okay. If we have a need, I can get it. It's redacting radio traffic and telephone traffic. It can be done, and we've done it many times.
My first request for those is probably going to be when we have a discharge.
Okay.
Because I'll kind of go into like hypersensitive mode.
Sure.
And I want to try to put myself right there with this guy or gal.
Sure. I
as
understand.
they're making decisions.
I understand. That is absolutely something we can do. That is not an issue. And this is not a complaint. This is merely so y'all know. This is staff time intensive. My time, the investigations division secretary, Tony's time, Alex's time, Jason's time. There's a lot of people involved in this process. And very early on, you said, hey, can we get a deadline for this? And I said, I promise, I'll get them to you. Please don't give me a deadline, though. And the reason that I'm glad we stuck with that is I have, just like other people, other work to do that sometimes is more pressing, especially since y'all do quarterly meetings. I try to get them cranked out as fast as I can. I promise I do. So thank you for not putting in a deadline. The question that I said that I had earlier is this, and this is not something you need to answer right now, and you can deliver this message through Mr. Bautista. Is there something else you want from me or whomever comes to this board in terms of a presentation? I was kind of spitballing it here and just kind of threw it up to see if it worked. Again, you don't need to give me an answer now. If there's something that you want slightly tweaked in terms of length or content, whatever, please let me know through whomever. I will probably end up doing the majority of these.
I think we can, if there are suggestions, and not to say that your presentation wasn't good, but I think if there are suggestions, we could tell you tonight. So you don't have to say, I want to finish suggestions. We'll tell you tonight. Diane, do you see anything?
No, I thought it was excellent, and of course, we were helped by having the packet of information ahead of time, so that it was a bigger context for everything.
Megan?
I think I agree with Diane. I thought it was having the emails ahead of time and being able to look over everything that we had in the packet, and then having the packet with us and being able to watch the videos, having this as a reference point, having these and the way that the order in which we saw them and your summarization prior to watching them, I thought it was excellent.
I thought they were great. I guess in the muffled voices, I like to hear things, and I couldn't hear. It was muffled, and you just explained why that happens that way, for privacy's sake, although I didn't know one of the people in there. I know his voice. I remember him as a student. So, but I think you did good. Okay. Ivy?
I too think it was done quite well. I really did like the summaries, but once I figured out there was a summary, because I didn't start off, I had everything emailed to me, I still found myself wanting to go and read all the different reports, and then I noticed there were several reports for one incident, and I started even going through and highlighting, because they don't write the reports up together. And what I found interesting is how everything was crossing, even though it was different authors, it all was consistent, and they all seemed to come up with the same type of summary. So I found that interesting too.
Scott?
Well, I was really glad that we could do the in-car camera on the one episode. So, just please give us that kind of detail if you can. And, no, I think it's great. It was about the right length. And I think you inserted language that I knew was in the police report stuff, so I knew you weren't making things up. I remember those words. And so, no, I thought it was real good. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you guys had nice things to say about me since my boss is sitting in the crowd.
Oh.
I will continue to try to give. I didn't want to give you summaries in advance because, quite frankly, I wanted to force you to read the reports for yourself. And you're absolutely right, Ms. Williams. The police reports oftentimes don't completely overlap. They're oftentimes from different perspectives, but you see streaks of similarity and observations and things like that. And the one thing I would tell you, and this is general and this is not specific to tasers, is police reports very oftentimes don't completely, because it's perspectives. And so if I'm standing here, I see something that Mr. Dossett sees from there. So I will continue to provide some sort of summary at the meetings, but not in advance, thus allowing you to sort of form your own opinion. One of the reasons that and Alex and I talked about this a little bit in advance, and the chief and I talked about this a little bit in advance. The board has the benefit of reviewing the documentation. The general public doesn't, so they have a vague understanding of what they're watching when they watch the video. They've gotten sort of a compressed version of the situation. So that's all I've got.
Yeah, I'm really glad we were able literally to see some of the video and the audio, the recordings. I didn't know that was going to be an option for us, and to the extent that people have been real sensitive about how these things might be might be deployed, that I think we're, giving them the best shot to comment about it and be interested. So, good work.
Thanks, sir.
Again, thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, Diane, see you soon. One thing that, I guess I have an announcement before we'll officially adjourn. I'm glad to be back on the board. One of the things that I was gonna ask is, have you been doing ride-alongs? Need to get on your ride-alongs.
I've done more than we're required,
Okay,
but not too many.
okay, okay. So just wanted to check and see that people are doing your ride-alongs. I think they're real important. He gives us some actual pictures of what's going on out on the streets with our community. And on the, what Mr. Cruz has said, I think we can take the time in the meeting to kind of talk over what we want to do in reference to looking at some of these other things that have been called for us to do as a board, because they do overlap. And, one of the perceptions that I see that's occurring in the community, and just like he said, because I've heard that perception, is that we are rubber stamping things that come along. And I don't believe that, I don't believe that about us as a board, so most definitely don't.
Grace, one of the things that I appreciate you saying and telling him was that as the community is thinking that we may rubber stamp some of those things, I would encourage the community to not to just sick out certain individuals and share their concerns, but do it as a board.
Right.
Because we need to be unified in that sense
Right.
also.
Right.
So I appreciate you making that comment.
Right, because this
I
is
think
what
that's something
happens a
they need
lot
to
of
do.
times, individuals come to different ones of us, and include myself, and get a little upset with me when they complain and tell me this is going on, that's going on, and then you explain the procedure. I'm one to believe there's always a way to explain things to people too, as opposed to being rude or brushing them off. We do have to address people, especially the public, who actually see us doing a job or supposedly doing a job. So I'm pleased with you all, Mr. Wood. I think you do great. We disagree sometimes, but I love you all, so. Motion for adjournment.
Well, I had a comment. I was trying to wave my hand.
You were saying, hey.
Yeah, well, I was saying hey too, but I guess, I feel like we need to be cautious about any agreement for informal complaint review. That is soil that we tilled we tilled finely the first time we went through this. And the bias, I think, that we understood from the ordinance is that what we really wanted to do was to give people the opportunity for an appeals process that was fair and balanced and that required some detail and work ahead of the complaint and ahead of the appeal system so that we could be sure that's where we were. And how we flip that or how we amend that or compound that by taking on the job of informal complaint review, because I think that's what Durrell's asking for, I think is a job that we need to think really carefully about, because that's a big one. Our case numbers that the TASER review documentation are keyed to are in about, I think, the 3,000s. It's well through the fourth digit. So at some point in time this year, the Urbana Police must have made thousands of contacts with citizenry. And I want us to be able to take the time to do a prudent, thoughtful appeals process, and I'm a little afraid of the time commitments related to trying to do any kind of reporting of the informal complaint process. So.
And just to piggyback on that, my concern with the informal reporting or trying to keep up with that too, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, Scott. It's a fine line between all that reporting and micromanaging.
Right.
And at some point, there's a trust level. So if we can get those individuals to come in and take care of it and agree informally, we got to trust that that happened. And if it doesn't, those grown-ups know that they still can. Even after that process goes through informally, you still have an opportunity to go through the other process. Just make sure that they're all aware of that.
Right.
Grace, just to make sure that I get lost quickly with pronouns, so just so I understand, what we're talking about here is that the board members are working hard to, when members of the public approach them and tell them a story such as, hey, I had this interaction, I didn't like it, the board members are trying really hard to encourage that person to go to the police department or go to the HRO, file your complaint so that the board can review, go through the process, as opposed to being laid at your doorstep and not getting registered, not getting assigned a case number and things. That's what we're talking about. Okay.
It makes it extremely difficult because when we do that, whether they be our friends, our family, or people we know, when we do that, then their position is that, well, so-and-so told me that that's not the way it works.
Okay.
You know, and they're not, and they won't come before and file the proper complaint. And then it goes along, it passes along, where, you know, I went to this person, they told me. So to keep down confusion, they really should follow the process.
Okay. Great. And just, we added a new agenda item for today, 7B, which is to discuss items, how to add items to the agenda. Is it all right if I do just a quick announcement there? So since I've come into the role, the way I welcome, if any member wants to add anything to the agenda, if you email the HRO, I will immediately put it on the agenda. No questions asked, really. You can also email the chair and CC me, or if you just want the chair's opinion, just email the chair, and then she will direct me to add it to the agenda. So if there's anything you'd ever like to add to the agenda, you can email HRO, and that email will immediately go to Tony and myself. It's a new website address that we've created. We'll go ahead and put it on the agenda. Or you can email the chair, and with the CC to me, or then if you don't CC me, then the chair has to remember to notify me. I'll add it to the agenda. There's actually a third way. When we begin the meeting, if you'd like to add something to the agenda, the chair usually asks for modification to the agenda. You can just right then and there say, as I did today, I'd like to add this to the agenda, and then you can discuss it and add it. So those are three ways. If there are other ways that you would like to discuss adding to the agenda, that would be great. You can seek me out or have a discussion at our next meeting on what other ways we want to do that. So I wanted to share that. And then the other related item is, as you know, the Scripps Bureau requested a response, and we went ahead, and Diane was very kind enough to draft a response. And then I located some of the specific data that they wanted, and then we emailed it. We attached our last annual report, and we also attached a copy of our ordinance so that they would have all of that information. And we emailed it to all of the board members, so you would have it. I believe you received it.
Yeah.
And we met the deadline. It was a very short deadline, but we got them everything they needed. Is there anything you wanted to add to that? Because the board can supplement that response if they ever wish to. And if you would, we can discuss that at the next meeting, or you can, at the bottom of the email I wrote, if you would like anything added to the response, please reply. But nobody replied, which I assumed that it was comprehensive. Diane's been on the board for quite a while.
Yeah, I guess my only comment is that it seemed as if Mr. Diaz actually was hoping we might kind of talk through that at a meeting, and although I'm just kind of putting words into the email that I saw from him. But in lieu of that, since we're here, can you just briefly describe what the response was? Or what the questions were? I could go through it too, but the members of the community didn't see the list of questions and didn't know how we responded. And I think being open with that is what Ricardo had kind of requested. And then,
Oh, yeah, actually, it's being uploaded to our website, the
Oh,
board
okay.
website.
Okay, great.
So it will appear on Monday.
Great.
And, both the original request and the questions, and then the board member response.
Right.
And
Okay.
in the future, whenever we get a request, I would transmit it to the board, and then we would work together to draft something.
Okay.
And to get to them. In situations where it's time pressure like that, I think we had a few days, 5 days, 7 days, I don't remember what it was. At that point, I would notify you all and ask for direction. Does the chair want to get back to me and let me know how to proceed if we're going to do a response? But yes, so that the public is aware of the questions and the response. It's being uploaded on Monday.
Yeah, okay, great.
Most of the questions dealt specifically with procedure, what we could do and what we could not do.
Right, right.
It was not something, the questions were not those types of questions where we could file complaints or say which wasn't working.
Right, right.
We wanted straight up and down how our board was run. So I'm glad it's gonna be put out there so that they know that we weren't trying to hide anything.
Yeah, and I think, I'm glad that we're visible enough for them to have found us. Sort of the simple setup for this is a reporter from the Scripps Washington Bureau did surveys of over 200 oversight boards in the United States, and ours was one to whom he asked kind of a set of standard questions about policy and stuff like that. So citizens should take a look at that on the website.
They should. One of the things that actually probably led to this is, Tom and I joined the National Civilian Industry Board, and we went through the trainings with those organizations. And this was one of the things that they had talked about a couple of years ago, getting information from the review boards around the country. So that was an outcome, I think, of that, because they did say that they wanted to do some of the reviews from some of the other boards. So I'm glad we were chosen.
Yeah.
One concluding remark. It just came to me that we actually did not vote to approve the minutes. We motioned and seconded, but did not actually go through the vote. So when we we'll review the transcript, but I think.
It was, Ms. Gottheil made the motion to approve the minutes of April 22nd as presented, seconded by Mr. Dossett, but we need at least a voice vote. There was no vote.
Okay,
So.
Motion to the meeting before we adjourn. There was a motion to approve the minutes and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried, minutes approved.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, our next meeting is January what? I know, that's next year, see? Okay, will you send us something out? Okay. How does that work? Is that working, meeting quarterly? Or should we be meeting more? Think about it over Christmas, because I think I'm gonna bring that back as an item that we really need to talk about. I think it might help us. Because I'm getting old and I forget things, doing things quarterly, I forgot what we talked about.
Grace, can I add that to the agenda just as a placeholder? Okay.
Looks like we're on for the 27th of January.
The what?
January 27th.
Okay. Is there anything else? We need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Officially adjourned. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.